Hello and welcome to the Daily Sketchbook Habit, and this is my March Hobonichi Daily Sketchbook Tour. And for those of you who are new to my channel, I am a big believer in taking the time, just a small amount of time each and every day, to draw in a sketchbook. It doesn't have to be a huge commitment of time, and as you'll see, I spend about 15 minutes a day on this practice, and I have seen such benefits I can't tell you. So I just want to begin, and I'll explain. I have a little cold, so I'm sorry about my voice, but I want to begin with just explaining that this is a Hobonichi Cousin, and it's a wonderful Japanese daily planner that a lot of people use for planning, and I actually have a small one. Here, this is my Hobonichi that I use for planning, but it's just a planner. This is my art journal, and I chose it because I love the paper. And so the Hobonichi Cousin is an A5 size, and it comes with several features. And to start, it has a yearly calendar, but it also has a 6 months at a view, okay? And then it goes on to have a monthly calendar spread and then also daily calendar spreads. And in between, there's also a weekly spread. And that is, here it looks like this. And I use that just to write like a daily journal. So anyways, I'm going to start with my 6-month spread. And how I use it is to write down the topics of the day for the Hobonichi Challenge. And the Hobonichi Challenge is a daily drawing prompt that is sponsored by a few people on Instagram. And if you go to the hashtag Hobonichi Challenge, you'll see the list of prompts for that month. And I will leave links to this in the description box below. It's really wonderful. And so this is my 4th month doing it. I actually started in December, but I started mid-month. And I just completed March, and the theme for March was around the house, and I wrote down the daily prompts here, and you can get those on Instagram. So that's what I use this for. And then here are my monthly spreads, and that's where I do my Hobonichi Challenge. So this is the month of December, and as you can see, I started on December 20th, and this was January, which was all about dogs. This was February, which were themes of love and appreciation. And this is my March spread. And I kept the March spread very simple. I kept it to 5 minutes or less for each prompt. And I only used a graphite pencil, this 2B lead in a Uni Kurutoga pencil. Any pencil would do, obviously. And so I furthered my challenge by not allowing myself to look at anything before I drew. So I read the challenge, like for instance on the 5th it was a television, and I just drew a television from my memory. So you can see these are very, very simple drawings. They are not complicated in any way, and they're just very quick. And most of them took me probably 3 minutes or less. They were very quick. And this is on purpose because it makes it easier for myself to show up and get it done. So if I know I have to do something really complicated, I'll be less likely to do it. And I know this about myself. So this has kept it really simple for me. And it was great fun. And it really stretches me because it forces me to draw things that I would normally never draw. For instance, the 12th was a toilet. I just drew a toilet looking down. I mean, who would ever draw a toilet? But it was really good for me and stretched me in many ways, and I just loved it. So this was my March, and the theme was, what did they call it? Around the house. So that is my March spread. And I also put this onto my Instagram feed, a little video that you could see the drawings up close. I think my favorites are probably the refrigerator. For a blanket, I just did some knitting. I like the desk with a little cup and pencil. That's a desk like the one in my son's room. So a toaster, rug, bookshelf, just fun stuff, okay? So that is my Hobonichi challenge. But then when I go back into the daily pages, I give myself 10 minutes. This is back in February. Let me get to March here. So the way the daily pages are set up is each day has a whole page for that day. And what I do is I start with a watercolor wash, and I do that the day before. So when I finish my drawing for the day, I do the watercolor wash on the next day, and then I use it the following morning for my drawing. And so I never know what this is going to be. Okay, when I wake up and I open my book to the watercolor wash from the day before, something kind of strikes me about the wash, and I either see something in the wash the way it's dried, and I take my graphite pencil and I draw that thing, or I surround it with graphite and smudge it with my finger and pull it out. And you'll notice that when I don't see anything in the way the paint dries, I usually draw pottery like I did here on March 1st. Okay? I have a video about this in the Daily Sketchbook Habit playlist about how I put the watercolor down on the Hobonichi, and it actually shows me doing one of these spreads from start to finish if you're interested in that. So here's March 1st. It was beautiful colors, but I really didn't see anything, so I drew a pottery vase sitting on a table. Then on March 2nd, I saw this little boy blowing a candle out. Hopefully you can see that. Just want to look at the camera. Yeah, you can see that. On the 3rd of March, I saw a gnome. And so I sort of surrounded him in graphite and filled in some features. And I just use a pencil and my finger when I'm doing the drawing. And for the watercolors, I'm using my Wild Thorn watercolors. And I have videos on these as well. They're these beautiful, beautiful handmade gemstone and mineral paints that are made by my dear, dear friend Kim. And I use them for all of my Artists for Everyone videos and also for all of my intuitive daily work. So on March 4th, I saw a woman's figure, and I just sort of surrounded it with graphite and have her sitting just simply. It's just a very subtle drawing. And on March 5th, I saw another woman, but from the back, in sort of a tight-fitting dress, short hair. Maybe she has purple hair. And on March 6th, I drew a wooden table with sort of a beehive-shaped ceramic vessel and then a flower petal on the table. And on March 7th, I saw a crow. And I saw some sort of like bare trees or cactus or something. The colors were really beautiful. I surrounded sort of a moon shape and drew this crow. And on March 8th, I did not see anything specific in the way the paint dried, so I drew another piece of pottery sitting on a wooden table. And on March 9th, I drew a feather. March 10th, I very clearly saw a woman from behind, and so I made her wearing a dark coat and her long red hair. I really love the way this one turned out. The colors are so beautiful in person, and the way the mineral paint's dried and sort of granulated on the paper. And the paper in the Hobonichi is really beautiful. It's Tomoe River paper, and it's very thin, almost like an onion skin paper, and it's kind of crinkly. And I just love the way the graphite goes onto the paper and the way the watercolors dry. It's very beautiful, very delicate. On March 11th and 12th, I drew flowers. That's what I saw. So I drew flowers into the way the paint dried. And I used my eraser on my pencil to sort of lift highlights where I saw them in my mind, you know. Again, I'm not looking at any kind of reference when I draw these, so it's not really a seeing drawing exercise. Seeing drawing is where you hold something in your hand, like this rock, or put it on your paper, and you very carefully try to document exactly what you see. But this exercise is intuitive drawing, so I'm looking at the way the paint dries, and I'm pulling something out of that, an image. So it's more imaginative and intuitive work. Really wonderful fun. This one has that beautiful silver moon watercolor. And on March 13th, I just loved this. The way the watercolor dried is so gorgeous. And so I just did a simple corner of a room with a wooden floor and an open book and a pencil on the floor. And then on the 14th, I really didn't see anything in the paint, so I used it as a background, and I drew a table with a bowl, a wooden bowl, and a pear in the bowl. And again, once the 10 minutes is up, I just stop. You know, I try to keep it very simple, and this makes it more likely that I will show up every day. And the amazing thing is that I've actually done this for something like 90 days in a row now. It's crazy. So it's wonderful. On March 15th, I saw a man, and his face was truly there in the paint, the way the paint dried. And so I just surrounded him with graphite and just very, very gently enhanced his features. On the 16th, I saw a woman, and it became a little bit of a self-portrait. I've kind of hid her face a little bit, and she's holding a blanket up in front of her. So I really like that one. On March 17th, again, I really didn't see anything specific in the way the paint dried, so I made this sort of clay vessel in the shadows. The colors are really, really beautiful. On the 18th, I sort of saw a cat in the way the paint dried, and so I worked on him, and it was hard for me because I wasn't really looking at anything, and I didn't get to finish it within the 10-minute time frame. But you know what? I really love the way he just sort of disappears. I think it's really effective. This beautiful gold paint from Wild Thorn. It's just gorgeous, the paint. So I really like this one on the 18th. On the 19th, I saw this figure sort of down and out and sort of snow falling. Maybe they're cold and struggling. And it reminded me of a tarot card. I believe it's the Seven of Pentacles. So that one, I really like this one. And again, I used my eraser to sort of pull out highlights, but those little speckles were actually in the paint. On the 20th, again, didn't really see anything, so I drew a pottery bowl on a table. And that's okay, you know, that's just my thing. If I don't see anything, I tend to draw these bowls. It could be anything for you. Or you could just make something up out of your head. You could draw a feather or a teacup or your cat or your dog or anything, your hand, anything at all. You could even be abstract, or you could just leave it. You know, you could just leave it the way the paint dried if it's really beautiful. No pressure, you know, there's just no pressure. That's not the point of it. On the 21st, it was very dreamy and watery to me, and I clearly saw a mermaid swimming, so that's what I drew. And on the 22nd, I saw this woman with long blonde hair, very sad, kind of her face in her hands, and so I just sort of surrounded her with graphite and smudged it, and just sort of left her that way. I think I just put a little bit of pencil in there to suggest her arms. This reminded me of the card, the Nine of Swords, in the tarot deck. I really like this one. You never know, you know, you just never know it's going to come up, and it's really wonderful that way. On the 23rd, I saw crocus, and so I surrounded it with graphite and just sort of enhanced it a little bit. And the funny thing is the crocuses in my yard were blooming. They're just starting to come up and bloom on that day. So I drew a crocus. And on the 24th, I saw a carrot very clearly growing underground, sort of with a bent root. And so I just enhanced that and then drew the leaves coming up from the ground. Love this one. And sometimes, you know, the graphite rubs off on the opposite page, and you can always clean it up if you need to. But I'm not precious with this. It's just wonderful to have this documentation, you know, and now it goes back 3 whole months that I can look at the end of the year and have this record of my days of intuitive art, you know. Then on the 25th, I saw a water lily in the water, and the way the paint dried was so beautiful. So I just drew this lily with some lily pads. And on the 26th, I didn't see anything again, or if I did, it just felt, I think that day I actually saw some things and I wasn't feeling very well, and so I just made it into a pottery vessel. Again, no pressure, you know, there's just no pressure. The only pressure is to show up every day and do it. That's enough, and now I just can't wait to get up and do it. So it becomes a habit, the sketchbook habit. On the 27th, I saw a dog. I have no idea what kind of dog it is, but it was really there. And so I just surrounded it with graphite and sort of enhanced it a little bit. And it's getting easier and easier to do this. It's really fascinating. And on the 28th, I also saw a dog kind of with an archway opening into a room full of light. And so I just surrounded and kind of created the archway. I used an eraser to pull out some highlights on the dog. This turned out really well, I think, and I love that the spread is these 2 dogs. It's pretty cool. On the 29th, again, I didn't really see anything, but it just felt like a sunny day with a pottery vessel, and I drew some pussy willow branches coming out of the vase. And on the 30th, again, another vase. I was traveling. I just got home from a really wonderful vacation. And so I did it while I was away. I did it in my hotel room. And then the last day of March, I saw this mermaid. I'm not sure why, but my video was cut off somehow and I didn't get to finish. And I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. And if you have any questions at all, please leave in the comments below. I love to have discussions about whatever you're interested in. I really appreciate you being here. Thanks so much.